And since I've already talked about the what I call the prequel problem, I also want to share a novel that is also from the new Star Wars canon that still has a lot of callbacks and references to the other books slash movies slash stories, but feels much better because how focused on character it is. And the book I'm talking about is um, Lost Stars. And of course, I haven't read every single Star Wars books out there, not every single canon book. I have not read, for instance, the Aftermath trilogy or Bloodlines and a lot of other stuff, I would assume, but I am 90% sure that Lost Stars is my favorite of the bunch. It might not be like technically the best story, but that's the one I enjoyed the most. And this is not technically a prequel because it takes place across all three films of the original trilogy. And we meet a lot of the characters. We meet Wedge, Biggs, Luke, Leia, Han. I think we met Han. I'm not exactly sure about that actually. And of course, it goes beyond that. It ends in the Battle of Jakku and a little bit after that as well. And even though there are a lot of callbacks and references, this book does not feel like it's the only reason it exists is to invoke the imageries of the prequel of the original trilogy. Even though, in a way, it does because it is basically looking through the Battle of Yavin, Battle of Hoth, and Endor and Jakku, and linking them together. And this is basically like a speed run of the original trilogy. But it focuses on two characters that are really likable and have a great, great arc. It's actually been a while since I've read it, and I'm terrible with names, but the main lead, Thane something, I think? Or something Thane. Um, anyway, I'm not gonna waste. Oh, yeah, Thane. It's Thane and Sienna. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing their names right, but I can't be sure about that. But Thane has a great story of him hoping to be in the Imperial fleet, goes into Imperial fleet. Halfway through, he realized, holy crap, the Imperials are terrible. And he has a slow arc of redemption and defection, and it's handled really well. Um, this is really well compared with the character of Finn in Star Wars Force Awakens. And um, the problem I have, it's not like a huge problem because I know movie has time restraints, and of course structurally it cannot be executed in the same way that a novel can, given it novels can have a much um, more space for character development as such. But Thane does not straight go to rebellion mode. He at first he hated rebellion because he thought they're terrorists, and later on he realized how terrible the empire is, and he still wouldn't join the rebellion because he still felt their message was wrong. So he wanted to settle down. But later and later, he found out he couldn't just stay put and not do anything about it. He wanted to help the people. He wants to protect the others who cannot protect themselves. And so he reluctantly joins the rebellion, and time after time, after mission, realized that this is the place he's supposed to be, and completely believes in their mission, in his mission. On the other hand, Sienna Ree, um, was absolutely convinced that what she's doing as a as an imperial pilot was absolutely the right thing. He also saw the problems with the empire, but she believed that internal change is the best thing to do. And after the attack on the Death Star, during which so many of their mutual friends had been killed, she just could not turn. And there's a huge bit about loyalty, how we swore an oath and we have to keep it. And I think, and this book is great because of it. And I know this is a love story, this is a young adult novel, like teen romance stuff. You know, I don't mind it at all. Um, for instance, I remember one of the lines. What is the line? I think it's you. you left the rebellion for one day to hook up with your ex-girlfriend or something like that. This is very, very corny dialogue, but it's completely forgivable because how likable and memorable these characters are. And if I want a cameo in new Star Wars films and or animated series, these two would be my top choice for appearing because their characters are so memorable. So in that case, it doesn't matter if the stories have already been told. We know exactly what happens on the attack on the Death Star in the Battle of Yavin, or a Battle of Hoth, or Endor. Jakku, of course, is one we don't really see, and even then we don't really see in this book. And it doesn't really matter because this book is not story driven, it's not plot driven. It is character driven, and all the characters have a great arc. And going back, talking about how to write a novel based on an existing universe, I think for something like this, either it's like Thrawn, who is a character that have been introduced and we're doing a prequel story on him, or it's Lost Stars, of stories we already know, and we're doing the same stories but from a different point of view. I think it is important to know that more times than not, it is the characters that one have to absolutely get right. And while I think Lost Stars completely hit it over the head, no, I think no. Well, Lost Stars completely hit it on the nail, perfectly, in that respect. Thrawn is lacking. It is not bad. I have to say that again, but it's not great. Thrawn's character is sort of mentioned, not really explored, and his genius, I feel like, is not there. This is not the old expanded universe Thrawn that we all know and love. This is nerfed Thrawn. He does much more impressive things than he does in Star Wars Rebels, but I mean, in Rebels he is a perfectly fine villain. Like, if you change his face color to like a normal human color, he'll be a perfectly fine villain for our protagonist. But if you want to compare him with Thrawn, the Thrawn everyone knows, he is not him, not even close. The most impressive thing Thrawn does in the Rebels TV show is he figured out two passes and finds the intersection, and this is like easy. Like, I'm not gonna say I could do it, but at least the way they shows it in the series seems to be very elementary. No Sherlock Holmes pun intended, but and in this book he does a lot more impressive things, but in comparison to the amazing deductions in the either in the Thrawn trilogy or Outbound Flight, it's honestly not even close. And I know a lot of the people's complaints with the Thrawn trilogy, for instance, the Thrawn is way too smart. And to an extent, I think they're right. Thrawn does something that he logically could not know, or it's not explained well. But I think that works on a villain level because, first of all, we don't have to see it from his point of view. We don't have to know exactly what he's thinking or how he came up with the answer. We have Captain Pelion to stand out, and he's like, oh, we're basically looking at Thrawn from his angle. It's like, what is he doing? I have no clue. And oh, it all makes perfect sense now. And that is perfectly fine, even though we cannot see every single detail of Thrawn's logical deductions. And even then, we have a point of view from Thrawn's angle. We don't really see that either. We see how he deals with people, how he observes people, and find out if they're being truthful or what a kind of person he or she is. And that's good, but it doesn't, at least for me, it doesn't really do it. All in all, I think Thrawn is a fine book. I struggle to call it good because I know Timothy Zahn is so much better than this. He has showed it. He showed it was the same character. What he's lacking is not in the it's not like he doesn't comprehend what the character of Thrawn should be, or should he be capable of. Just that in the structure of the story, he wrote a completely unnecessary story, which makes sense because Lucasfilm / Disney, they want to make money, and they want to cap off the character that everyone know and love, who's been reintroduced into the canon. That's perfectly understandable, but the story is unnecessary, and on top of that, it doesn't really paint Thrawn in a new light. The deductions and the battles are still enjoyable, but in small scales. And the deductions themselves are not particularly impressive. And I think when Thrawn is most impressive is still when facing overwhelming odds, when he is having a disadvantage. In this book, he has all the resources he has to waste. So whenever he pulls a victory, it doesn't feel like this is something amazing. It sounds like, of course he wins. He has all the resources. So I don't know. I don't have a recommendation on this or not. I guess it's worth it if you want to buy the audiobook, but if you want to buy like the hardcover, hard copy novel, I don't think it's worth it. On the other hand, Lost Stars, I will absolutely recommend. It's a great story. I don't know if it's worth rereading because I haven't reread it yet, but it's absolutely emotional. It has great characters. The story itself is a bit weak, but that's not the point at all. So I will absolutely recommend Lost Stars, and since I already recommended Tarkin, even though I said the contrast between Tarkin and Thrawn is so weird, because Tarkin can do much more crazy, ingenious things than Thrawn, Tarkin itself is still a highly enjoyable read. I will definitely recommend it. You get a lot of Tarkin's backstory, which shapes his character, and I think it's really interesting. His character, his philosophy, and again, this is still a very character-oriented story, so I will absolutely recommend that as well. So, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you later in the next AfterThought video, whenever that's gonna be. Bye.